Miss it. We're just getting started. All right, let me grab TikTok. We'll get this party started for our Friday community stream. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. All right, go live in 3, 2, 1. Hello, TikTok. Good afternoon. It is a beautiful day here in the sunny South, although I will say I was up until about 2:45 in the morning last night, and from about 2 to 2:45 there was a storm here that was crazy. Like, I shut off all the lights in the house and all the lights outside so I could just kind of look out and be in the storm. And it was an eerie storm. And since there's been tornadoes all over the South, like I'm downstairs, I have all the lights off, I'm watching this storm. I have my 20-month-old daughter sleeping on the couch right there. And like, in my mind, I'm like, all right, if there's a tornado right now, what am I going to do? So, but I was glad my daughter was with me. Usually she wakes up when she has like a mommy sense, and when she sleeps, if Nicole's not there, she wakes up within like 5 minutes. And last night she was sleeping on the couch downstairs while I worked for hours. And I was like, man, if there's a tornado, I'm glad she's here, because I was going to grab her, obviously. I mean, Nicole, I see you. Nicole, you were screwed because you were upstairs. But, you know, you and Brady probably would have been down for the count. But Aubrey and I and the dogs, yeah, we would have been all right. So today we are going, hello, Hawaii. Today we are going to talk about teaching science and teaching history the right way. And as I tell parents all the time, the way that we study history, the way that we study science is more important than the history and the science that we study, because we can use it as a memorization tool, which is really the modus operandi of the Bradley Stone in the house, of the public school system, right? That's how they operate. Or we can use it to teach critical thinking. We can use it to sharpen the discernment of our children, and especially in early childhood, you know, we really want to sharpen that discernment. And then as children grow older, we want them to start to formulate their own theories about the world, like this crazy idea that you can take a child and rather than forcing a worldview down their throat, you could allow them to review things for themselves and start to formulate their own worldview. So I'll talk about this in the history of science, and then I'll talk about it in the context of history. So with science, I've been working on putting together a twofold curriculum. One, which is the scientific method, because children need to know the scientific method, especially when they get older. How are they going to test out their observations, right? The scientific method, and from a very young age, teaching children that they should have a relationship with this method. And it's a system of trying to isolate variables to test out what is true and what is false, right? And I mean, there are so many great experiments on the internet that you can do this with, but you can really do it with anything, because if you do a Google search and you pull up one of these experiments, or you use one of my experiments, what you do is you challenge the child. Can you set up a control? Can you identify variables? Can you identify the independent and dependent variable? Right? And by doing that, they're doing their own testing, they're making their own hypothesis, and they're making their own observations. And speaking of observations, and this is the other part of what we've been doing, it is very important that you've inspired us to homeschool. We were scared until watching you for many months. Thank you. Yeah, I can't tell you how often I get that, and it makes what I do so rewarding. Like, for anyone that really knows me, you know that I detest the system. Like, I think the system is structurally designed to dumb us down and to really produce corporate worker bees who are obedient to authority. And not only do I think that, but I can show you the historical etymology that goes back and where this stuff all comes from, right? Like I could show you where this stuff all comes from, and that the system itself is designed to create obedient workers. Like if you go back, and I'll get back to remind me that I was about to talk about observational confidence, but if you go back in history and you track the history of the school system, what you'll see is that in Prussia, they were in a war, in the Napoleonic Wars, right? You're going back to the Napoleonic Wars, right? They were in the Napoleonic War. And anyway, so Napoleon comes along and he just runs through Prussia. And by the way, you look at the history of what happened in that region for the 150 years after that, right? Like, oh man, this is interesting. So Napoleon runs through them, and they got beat so bad that the Prussian generals said, hold the line. And the Prussian soldiers said, absolutely not. And they turned around and they ran away. And after that happened, the Prussian government didn't want that to happen again. They said, how can we prevent this from ever happening again? Well, they got together they weren't called psychologists at the time, but for lack of a better term, the leading psychologists, the leading social engineers, the people that studied the human mind of the day, and they had them, they put together a group and they said, come up with a system of education that prevents this from ever happening again. You can imagine the system they came up with. They came up with a system designed to make citizens obedient to authority. It involves an 8-hour school day, classes taught in 45-minute blocks with ringing bells, raising your hand to go to the bathroom, never stepping out of line, sitting when you're told to sit, being where you're told to be. They came up with that's how the modern school system was created. And every one of us who learns that history should take a step back. I shared your link to our community in Palm Beach. Yeah, guys, if you guys always share my stuff as much as possible, because I'm still the one-man marketing band, and like it's super annoying. I'm hoping to get to a place soon where I don't have to be that. But I'm much more interested in curriculum development. But when you're growing a business, it's like your front end has to be, I got to be there, right? You got to open the phone, see my face. It's annoying. But I'm trying to get out of that. So when you learn that history, you should be taken back and say, wait a second, well, what happened since then? Well, in the early 1900s, there were groups, there were think tanks, mainly the Rockefellers, the Carnegies. I posted a video about Carnegie this morning about starting World War I, how he had purchased 25 newspapers. Hey, Brady. In an effort, be careful, I haven't picked up the poos. He had purchased the 25 most influential newspapers in America in an effort to convince Americans to support getting into World War I, right? So like these industrial titans were very involved in all of this stuff. What's going on, Papa Bean?
Hey, look what I found in the car.
Oh, that's cool.
It carries lollipops.
Oh, it carries lollipops. Want to show the people? It's Yoda. It's a terrifying sound, Brady.
Yeah.
I know. I have to pick up the poos. I know.
We're in the front. We're going to be in the front if you need us.
Okay, I'll be out in about 30 minutes, okay?
We'll call you.
Yes, sir. Love you. All right, so you had these forces come together, and they were interested in co-opting the school system. By the way, there's an interview with G. Edward Griffin and Norman Dodd. You type in G. Edward Griffin, Norman Dodd. That Griffin did this interview before Dodd had died. And Dodd was on the Reese Committee, the Congressional Reese Committee in the 1950s, which had studied the activities of tax-exempt foundations, and specifically were looking for if they were involved. Hey, Jenny, I will try to inbox you this week, although I've been a little backed up. So give me, and you know what, inbox me on the app. You'll see Classical Learner, and let's get you set up. And if you have any questions, ask Melissa, because Melissa knows. So anyway, there was the Congressional Reese Committee, right? There was a Congressional Research Committee. Yeah, I'll talk about that IRS thing. Like, people, anyway, I'll talk about that in a minute. But there was the Congressional, no. There was the Congressional Research Committee in the 50s, and Norman Dodd was the chair of it. Not the chair of it. No, I'm not doing a live with you right now. Stop asking to come in. Norman Dodd was, he had an investigator in the committee, and he got access to the corporate notes, the corporate minutes of the Carnegie Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, and he found, like, that history with Carnegie. I'm turning off invites for this live because that person keeps asking to come in. Like, it's annoying. I don't want to do a live with you. It's like, if you want to do a live stream with me, inbox me, and, we could schedule it. And, anyway. Where was I? Sorry about that. So, yeah, he got access to these corporate minutes, and what he found is that these tax-exempt foundations were trying to figure out ways, one, to get America into World War I back in, like, 1910. Like, they were already planning to start this stuff, right? Like, this stuff was going on before the war had even broke out. Like, all this stuff was planned, and they wanted to co-opt the American education system, and they thought the best way to do that would be to alter Americans' understanding of history, right? So this stuff is all very well documented. Well, in the early 1900s, the Rockefellers, they create the Board of Education, right? And there's this guy, William Taylor Gates. Did I get his name wrong? Taylor Gates? The William might be wrong, but I think it's William Taylor Gates. But he was the Rockefellers' number one man. He was the right-hand man, and he was in charge of this project. And right there in their founding literature, there's a very famous quote. I've actually gone back and found the document, not just the memes you see, of him talking about how they're not trying to create a nation of thinkers. They're trying to create a nation of workers, right? They don't want poets. They don't want artists. They don't want musicians. They don't want lawyers. They don't want... So like the tree of the poisonous fruit, the fruit of the poisonous tree, right? Like, the education system in America is rotten from its roots. And of course, although the agendas have changed over time, right? The agendas change over time. The controlling mechanisms are relatively the same, right? I mean, I could talk about how they co-opted history textbooks, what's written in history textbooks. And the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, and the Guggenheim Foundation. The Guggenheim Foundation attempted to co-opt the history textbooks, and first they went to the 4 leading historians of the day, and they said, hey, will you teach this version of history, right? Because, we think this is the better version of history, and those historians said, no, thank you. They were not to be deterred. So the Rockefellers and these groups, they handpicked 20 of the most, they handpicked 20 college students from around the country, and like the devil, luring Jesus out to the desert and offering him the world, they flew these 20 college students out to London, offered them $400,000 in grants, and obviously what else they offered them, because 10 years later, these college students make up the governing board of the American Historical Association. And at the time, the American Historical Association was very influential over the best practices for teaching, for educating history teachers, and the best practices as to what goes into history textbooks. These are mechanisms and levers of control that they use to control society. They did the same thing with the medical industry. You could go back and look at the Flexner Report, which was funded by the Rockefellers and the Carnegies, a Flexner Report, and it was brought in front of Congress and used to justify giving the AMA, the American Medical Association, control over university accreditation. So if you weren't teaching petroleum-based medicine in the universities, you would lose your accreditation, which is why 20 years after this legislation, there were half the number of medical universities, medical colleges in the United States of America. Half the number. They had axed any university that wouldn't comply. Well, now you have generation after generation after generation of doctor being taught this is medicine, right? And then that's why you have so many doctors who, you know, I would argue aren't capable of even having a logical conversation about a lot of things that have happened, let's just say over the last little bit of time, you know? We don't want to ruffle too many feathers here, you know? we don't want to piss off the Illuminati all-seeing eye here, okay? I'm just talking about history. I don't want to go too much against your narrative. I certainly don't want to make any claims, right? You know, it's funny, one of the things you learn, yeah, of course, the Flexner Report. I did a whole unit study for our homeschool students on the medical industrial complex, and our students read the Flexner Report, right? They read the Flexner Report. Yeah, you learn when you get into this space, and it's very important, and it's actually a good lesson that really the children should be taught in everything, that you want to learn to communicate on the public sphere without making claims that can be weaponized against you. Without making claims that could be weaponized against you. Right? It's almost like lawyer talk. Right? And, on the one hand, you're like, oh, why would you do that? Because there are bodies trying to leverage stuff over you. And if you know how to talk around it, then you are in alignment with the agreement you have with them, which are the terms that have been set, right? Like, all this stuff is very important, and a lot of people don't get to see this, but like, as I've been in this space and I've become a social media influencer, which is kind of a weird thing, it's a weird thing, 2 years ago, anyway, it's quite an experience. You start to get artful at these things, and there are certain ways of communicating, so that's what I try to do to the best of my ability. So getting back to the start of this, the way that our children are taught history, I guess I'll do the history first, because I kind of got into it, is important. It's important, and in schools, they're just being taught to memorize a narrative. It's like, here's a story, and this story is what you memorize. And if you could repeat this story, now you know history. Like, if you could repeat the story of Mania, right? Mania, right? Militarism, alliances, imperialism, nationalism, right? Assassination, mania, caused World War I. Man, mania didn't cause World War I. Militarism, alliances, nationalism, imperialism, assassination. Who was making all those alliances? Who was doing all that imperialism? Who was funding all that militarism? It's not about memorizing the story. It's about understanding the mechanisms, the systems in place that are used to leverage control over institutions and drive society in a certain direction. Militarism. What does that mean? I'll tell you what that means, NPC, public school history teacher. Militarism means that United States Steel, right? United States Steel, that JP Morgan and the banking industry, right? They had financial interest in building up the United States military because they set to make billions of dollars. This was the military industrial complex originally described by Smedley Butler in the book War is a Racket. When he died, he was the most decorated soldier in American history. And the last thing he wanted the American people to know before he died was that he never fought a war over freedom. That's what he wanted them to know. That he fought for the banks and for Wall Street. He understood the levers and the mechanisms. Because when you understand the levers and the mechanisms, you could understand what's happening in the modern world today, right? So when you turn on the news and there's that thing going on in the Far East, right? And they're like, this is what's happening because there's a really bad guy over there. You have like the critical thinking faculties above a 5-year-old. And be like, maybe it's more complicated. Maybe the news isn't giving it to us straight, and it's more than just there's a bad guy there in the Far East, and now we have to give all of our tax money to another country, and that's it, right? And it's a good guy versus bad guys. Like maybe, I don't know, if people understood history and the mechanisms that are used to control these institutions, they would have a little bit more of a nuanced understanding of what's actually happening. And again, I'll do that lawyer talk because Illuminati, I respect you. By the way, I do think people overblow the influence of the Illuminati per se. Do I think they're around? Sure, I think they are a group. But, you know, people are just, they're like children, and they're like, there are secret groups, and they have all the control over everything that happens, and they control everything in my life. And it's like, okay, get a grip. There has always been, there are, and there always will be influential, powerful people who do things in both public and private, trying to accumulate wealth and power. That's nothing new. You're not a special boy. That's not unique to today, right? Your ancestors had to deal with like Genghis Khan and Vikings raiding their villages, and you're like, oh my God, but don't you know the celebrities? It's like, get a grip. Don't you see the coding? Don't you see that only number 33 didn't kneel? It's like, okay, guys, all right, I think that maybe the truth community has been a little bit too infiltrated, right, by people who just push scare tactics and take you down endless rabbit holes that you'll never discover, right? Possibly. And, you know, you're getting a little bit too caught up in that. Yeah, I mean, of course the Illuminati are a real thing. It's not. Again, when you're a forensic historian, you know this. Like last week in our homeschool company, we actually tracked down letters written by George Washington. And in those letters, George Washington acknowledged, ready for it, that the Illuminati were a real thing. Is George Washington not a good source? Right? I mean, and then you'll get these people like, conspiracy theorists, conspiracy. No, they're a real thing. But do I think they control, like, you know, are the Illuminati the reason you didn't get out of bed in the morning? Well, then you have problems. And there's many different groups, right? There's Skull and Bones, there's the Rosicrucians, there's Freemasons, there's the Jesuits, right? There's the Pilgrim Society, there's the Society of the Elect. Yeah, there's a lot of creepy groups. And then there's the ones that are right out in the open, right? Like, there's the World Economic Forum, and there's the Bilderberg Group, and there's the United Nations. Like, there's the Trilateral Commission, and there's the Council on Foreign Relations. Yeah, these groups are everywhere, right? There's a ton of groups, and a lot of them do have overlap. Like, a lot of these groups have all the same characters. Like, there's a lot of that. There are forces trying to create a grip of uniformity over power in the world. And when you understand the mechanisms that are used to control these institutions, because you study history the right way, you could see these things for what they are, you know, and you could do this crazy thing that the system doesn't want you to do, which is this idea that you could think for yourself, you know, and the beautiful thing is we can teach children to do this. That's what I'm doing. I am teaching the next generation how to do this. I'm through with trying to wake adults. I went through that period of my life. I went through that. I remember when someone that I really respected and looked up to in my life, and I was going through my awakening, and I started to figure out some things about the world. And I had a background as a historian. I got a degree as a history educator. And there's this person I really respect, and we're hanging out, and I start to tell them about the Federal Reserve Bank. And I had just woken up, and I remember them, you can't say that, Brett. You can't say that. No, don't say, you can't say that. And at the time, I didn't have the experience and the faculties to deal with that. I wasn't armed with the tools to handle that type of rejection. And it was a very confusing time in my life, a hurtful time in my life, where you go to the people you care about and you love and you tell them, you know, I discovered these things, and they're not ready to hear that. And when you first wake up, you try to tell the world and scream it from the mountaintop. Then you settle down and you start to go through your spiritual awakening. Then you start to study human psychology, and you start to understand that it's actually cruel to tell people something that they're not ready to hear. That if you want to wake someone up, you have to do it with subtlety. You have to do it with seedlings. If you want to grow a tree, you don't take a tree and just jam it in the ground. You take a little seed, you plant it in the ground, occasionally pour some water on it, you get it some sunshine, maybe a little bit of fertilizer, all organic, homemade, banana peels, eggshells. Love this planet. I am an environmentalist, make no mistake about it. All the people, I get accused a lot. I get accused by people, NPCs. They write in my videos, they say, don't you see? He's right-wing dog whistling. Don't you see? He's dog whistling. He's a right-wing. Look at him. I'm an environmentalist, okay? Make no mistake about it. I homestead. I plant more trees. I plant more trees in a month than, like, these people that accuse me of that have planted in their life. No, of course it's not too late to plant seeds. Where do you think the world's going? And then all these people that are like, Agenda 2030, that doesn't mean that, like, the 2030, they'll have us all locked down. It's goals, right? It's like, it's no different than if you sat down and were like, what are my goals? In 10 years, by 10 years from now, I have these goals. Maybe my goals are to be out of debt, to own 2 rental properties, and to have started my own business. To be married, have 3 children. Like, you set goals for 10 years from now. Well, the psychopaths that try to control the system, the controllers who wish to control, as I tell them, they set goals. Their first goals were agenda, not 19, 18, 21, just breaking the words up. And that was their goal for the year 2000. That was the agenda for the 21st century. Agenda 21 were the goals for the year 2000. By the way, conservative darling, right-wing darling, Jordan Peterson helped write that along with the Podestas. You know, just pointing out your charlatan of the day, just pointing out your shill of the day. These people aren't role models. I have a rule for life. Don't take advice from a guy who goes to Eastern Europe to do meth. That's my advice. That's my rule for life. Why don't you write a book about that, Jordan? Oh, man. I don't take advice from guys who make like $1.5 million a month doing speeches in theaters and getting repped by CAA. Something tells me, I don't know what it is, but something about all the observations I've made through all that critical thinking in my life tells me, you know what? Maybe that person's not shooting straight with you. I have friends that are actually like really silenced. That's not the treatment you get. That's not how it goes down, people. No, you don't get $1 million like, the guy gets so much money, it's ridiculous. And he's repped by CIA, which, if you want to know what CIA is, CIA, Freudian slip, would you? Huh? If you want to know what CAA is, that they're pretty much the number one talent agency. Talent agency. That's a nice word for handlers. They're the handlers of all the Hollywood celebrities who do the virtue signaling. And the celebrities aren't told. I mean, these aren't the most enlightened people. And, you know, I know they like to hold up their, you know, because they're so enlightened, they probably don't even know what it means. They're not exactly the most enlightened people, right? They're not exactly the most enlightened group. They don't meet in the Illuminati boardroom and they're like, this is what you're going to do. No, there's sticks and carrots. There's like money to push certain agendas. And if by any chance these people ever step out of line and cross a talking point or agenda they're not supposed to, they're slapped. Andrew Tate would slap his girls if they mouthed off to him. Another false idol. False idols all around. Shall we break them? You guys should see what Lauren Southern has to say about that guy. Everyone's hero. Conservatives, right-wing conservatives, defending a Romanian pornographer who I could show you videos that are just insane with that guy. Very violent, very abusive person. And conservatives wonder why they can't conserve the bathroom. You wonder why you can't conserve the female, your daughter's bathroom. You're encouraging a man, right? You understand this, who is encouraging young, desperate boys. These very desperate boys, they feel like girls don't like them. They feel like society has left them behind. They feel like they can't do anything for money. They have no value. And they're looking to this guy as this alpha leader, and he's encouraging them to develop very aggressive, promiscuous, and physical behaviors with girls, right? The point is that he did this stuff in Romania. You understand that? Like, I'm not dealing with the Tate aren't. Like, you people are so... You get these people who don't understand what they're looking at. And by the way, it's fine. Defend him. Watch how hard it becomes to defend him in 3 years. The thing about discernment, when you really have it, is you can see what's going to happen, right? Like, watch how hard... Defending him now is going to be as hard as it is to defend the thing they tried to make you do in March of 2020. Or once they rolled out that, that warp thing. You get it? Like, you just watch how hard it becomes to defend that guy. You have at that. You understand... Oh, people are so... Like, you understand you're annoying with your triggering? Like, look at your own ego. That shouldn't have triggered you. I'm Romanian, and I care about how you speak about us. I don't care about him. That's not the point. Talking about what Andrew Tate is, or that he was in Romania, right? That's not a condemnation of all Romanian people. That's your own insecurity. That's the fragility of your own ego. This is why we can't have conversations on the internet, because people are so sensitive. Everyone wants to be triggered by everything. Yeah, you won't like Andrew Tate the more you find out about him. Good luck with that. People they wonder why they can't preserve their nation. They wonder why the traditional American, like, family-oriented values deteriorate, right? What's wrong with him? I can show you a video of him viciously beating a woman. And then, I know what the libertarian types will say, right? They'll say, haven't you seen her response to that? She came out and she said that she was okay with it. Okay. What if he removed her arm and ate it? And then she came out and said she was okay with it. Do you understand how pimping tactics work? Do you understand? Yeah, viciously. I'll repost the video later today on my Twitter. You understand how breaking a woman works? Like, have you ever seen the woman that will continuously go back to her abuser and she's like, no, he's good, he didn't mean it? That's what it is. And by the way, I can show you all of these videos, including audio tapes of him basically admitting to horrible things. And so, yeah, I mean, people just, they cling on to idols of anyone that says, like, oh my God, but don't you see? They're saying true things. Like, yeah, Peterson and Tate, like, these people say some true things. Like, that's not the mark of a shill, right? It's not, shills will say true things, but everything they say isn't true, right? You understand? There's a difference. Like there's lines and there's reasons for their position. The people who control our society, I think Gotham deserves a better class of criminal. The people who control our society, who run the insurance companies. We are farmers. Dun, 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 dun. Welcome to State Farm. State Farm. Progressive. All state. State Farm. Progressive. All state. We are farmers. Dun, 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 dun. The people who view society as a farm, the same way a farmer would have cows and pigs and chickens and honeybees, and all these different animals require different cages, right? They require different cages. So what you do is you have the really left-wing stuff, slightly left-wing stuff, centrist stuff, like, Tim Pool and that shill of a human being, who lies constantly about being raided by police. It's so obvious. Then you have slightly right-wing, conservative, you start getting more right-wing to like alternative right, to the Alex Jones types, and then to like the far, they try to bring you into like the Richard Spencer and those vomit worth of groups. Hideous groups. So, but the point is that all of these are set up as cages, right? They're trying to keep a cage around your mind to control the way you think, to control your worldview, so that they can steer society in a direction that they want to steer it. And then, none of these people are steering you. These people aren't steering you in good directions. I'm Ben Shapiro. I'm not steering you in a good direction, okay? I have funding. My funding comes from a country in the Middle East, and that's who I serve. That's who my loyalty is to. And that's why I claim to be for free speech, but when it really comes down to it, I push anti-free speech laws. And that's, because all of these people are charlatans. They're fake. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, Melissa, I missed this too. I wish I could do it more, but I need my energy for the curriculum development. I need my energy for running the homeschool company, and now I'm trying to bring in people and work with people. We just launched a new website. We are releasing a new user platform probably next month. So yeah, thanks. I'm trying to push hard at it, and I've been filming a lot of classes now. So I'm really trying to film more and more classes. Yeah, www.classicallearner.com. You'll see Homeschools Connected, and it is $10 a month with the discount code FREEDOM, all lowercase and no spaces. And we're just getting started. We're bringing in a ton of really good people this year. I spoke with Woodshop Bear yesterday. He's building out a full carpentry curriculum. I got Pat Life working on something really cool, and a bunch of other really cool people that are, $10 just for the family. Love it. Keep up the work, guys. If you want a second account, you don't need a second account. You could do $10 for the family. But for anyone that wants a secondary account, just inbox me and we could, I'll let you know what our policy is on that. But you only need the one account. Yeah, I'm trying to take the mainstream education, I'm trying to take the education that we're building and make it available to everyone in the world, because I'm kind of a big thinker. I think 10 steps ahead, and 10 years from now, when you look at this, it's going to be a massive platform. And at Classic Learner, not Classical on Twitter. Someone took that. At Classic Learner. So we're really building something out, and I want an education worthy of freedom to be available to the public. Now, next month, if you get in, and I'm not trying to do time's running out type of thing. I'm speaking because it's come up, and this is probably what's going to happen. anyone who gets in at the current pricing, or is already in, I never, ever, you stay in, and 20 years from now, I will not ever raise the price on you. That's my policy. That's stated. That's done. Next month, I'm probably going to raise the price on new members to $15 a month. And the reason for that is I just built out a new website. We built out a new, much better user-friendly platform. And I'm going to be building out an affiliate system. In which I'm going to be able to give other influencers affiliate codes, and then when they get someone to sign up, it'll be like their sign up, and they'll be able to continuously be paid on that sign up, would be the idea behind it. And I'm going to start to approach big influencers, and this way I could shift the burden off of myself so I don't have to do as much marketing, and I could focus more on the curriculum development of that. So that's probably where we're going with it. And I'm really excited about it because it's been a great experience building out the business from the grassroots level and then seeing step after step what changes, what alterations I have to make to build and take it to the next level. So that's what we're going to continue to do. And, we're just getting started with all that. So, but yeah, that's where we're going. That's the future. So anyone who wants to join, it's classicallearner.com, Homeschools Connected, and discount code FREEDOM, all lowercase, no spaces, $10 a month. So all right, I think that was a pretty solid stream. That went pretty well. We dove into some history. We talked about social engineering and how society is controlled on a mass scale from a psychological level. We talked about human psychology and penetrating through the ego and the social mind and planting seeds in people's minds so that you could awake them in human awakening. And we talked about not being so fragile when someone brings up Romania and you say, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you, right? And I'm not like mad at that person. I just understand, like, I'm an influencer and it's really annoying. Like, I post these videos and every topic I post on, you touch someone's sacred cow. They're like, how dare you? It's like, all right, I get it. You're offended. Like, I know. Someone's going to be offended. And you can't post a video without someone being offended. Facts don't care about your feelings, but I don't care about the facts when it involves the people who fund me. I'm Ben Shapiro. Facts don't care about your feelings. Unless it's the people that fund me. And then I don't care about the facts. That's a great meme. Oh, I got to get people to make that meme. Ben Shapiro, facts don't care about your feelings unless it goes against my funding, the people who fund me. Then I don't care about the facts. That's hilarious. Boll and Branch. You have to get the sheets. These are the softest sheets. You get them at Boll and Branch. I sell Boll and Branch sheets, although I have millions of dollars of corporate funding. I got caught lying in my own ad. I said that I went to the store to get the sheets. Turns out the sheets are only sold on the internet. Lied in his own ad about Boll and Branch. I'm Ben Shapiro. By the way, everyone go jump on my Instagram video today. I was really annoyed how, some of these Instagram videos I do, get tons of traction, and then some of them I do it, and, the people don't appreciate my videos. I looked back at it. It was 25 likes 2 hours after I posted. I was like, man, because my gravy videos get so much traction on Instagram, like the World War I gravy, and then Classical Learner on Instagram. That's probably the platform where I connect most with the crowd. Anyway, it's people need to and share the educational videos as much as they do the gravy videos, because the educational videos are more important. And They're like, oh yeah, I want everyone to know the gravy. Well, you know how you get a society of people who know the gravy? You get them in my homeschooling company, and then they'll all know the gravy. People's energy are focused on all the wrong shit. They focus their energy on all the wrong shit. All right, guys. It's been lots of fun, but I've got to run. I will now pretend to drink water for 10 seconds in honor of Melissa. Glad to have you back, Melissa. You were missed. I was slightly worried. Go pick up the poos. I do have to go and shovel some, because that is what freedom requires. "3 a.m. and I'm gone for a while." There goes 2 a.m. "Can you help me unravel my latest mistake?" I like that song. I like that song because it's like, hypocrites, you're all here for the very same reason. But my God, is it beautiful when the boy smiles?